Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Town Manager Download, a podcast about local government and the town of Shrewsbury. I'm Kevin Mizikar, the Town Manager of the town of Shrewsbury, and as always, I'm joined by Communications Coordinator Taylor Galusha. In today's episode, Taylor and I are going to cover a variety of topics, somehow, hopefully, all tied to local government communications, engaging with residents, and building trust in local government. How's everything going, Taylor?
Good. It's been busy and still will be busy in this year. We have a lot of good events coming up the next couple weeks. I feel like tailored towards spring cleaning. The Rotary Club is hosting I feel like they do it twice a year. So their recycling event on the May 18th from noon till 3 p.m. Information on what you can recycle is on the town's website, but some of the highlights that you can't normally put in your recycling include various electronics like phones, modems, routers, bikes, keyboards. But if you don't want to just recycle those and you'd rather fix them up, there's going to be a Fix-It clinic at the public library the day before on the 17th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's actually going to be co-hosted by the Shrewsbury Sustainability Committee, which I think is just about a year old now. And I think this might be their first community-wide event that the library is helping them put on. So they're still looking for volunteers to come help with the actual fixing of people's kitchen appliances, small bikes, electronic devices, clocks, all those things that you can easily bring with you to the library and hopefully get fixed instead of having to get rid of them. So I feel like those are two really exciting spring cleaning-esque opportunities coming up. I think it's this weekend.
Great. Always something going on in town.
Yeah.
And then we have a call for interest.
Yep. So
Wrapping up I don't know. We have so many appointment cycles throughout the course of the year, but we're coming up on
this is the big one.
One that coincides with the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So July 1 appointment dates. Select Board and Town Manager both have recurring appointments in that time cycle. So where can folks find more information out about that?
They can visit the Board and Committee page, which is off of the town website's main page under residents. We post all of our volunteer opportunities on there. And I always like this general call for interest time because I feel like we get a lot of great interested residents that want to volunteer and get involved in a larger capacity. And ever since the board aligns their policy with yours with just doing the general call for interest, whether the incumbent wants to be reappointed or not, I think it's just a great way to make people aware of the different ways they can make an impact in our community. There's also some vacancies sprinkled in with the general call for interest that we're looking for. So, again, would love to see all the different applications and get these positions filled or just see who's interested in getting involved more.
Great.
And the general call for interest is due June 12th at 4:30 p.m. So if you have questions, you can call the town manager's office. We're always happy to help.
Great. Yeah. Please, always looking for new folks to chat with about the opportunities that we have and place individuals who are passionate and excited about contributing to the town on a board or committee. So please don't miss this opportunity. As Taylor said, it's one of the biggest opportunities, most number of positions that we have throughout the course of the year from both the select board standpoint and my standpoint. So a couple things are different about this episode today. First and foremost, we're not in the SMC studios. We're at the town hall. So those of you who are watching on YouTube or any other video viewing platform, if it's available, we'll see that we're in a different location. And we don't have a guest besides the two of us, and I know that we do this from time to time, but we're kind of making this a hybrid episode. I do want to reflect back a little bit on episode 15, which was a conversation between the two of us and communications in local government about your role at the town and being the communications coordinator. But I want to touch on that from a number of different standpoints. And the first one may be the most awkward, Taylor. So that's just first warning for you. But I know you came on board with the town. It's been 4 years and 11 months, three
No.
years and 11
Yeah.
months, almost 4 years. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So in June of 2021. So let's do an early career assessment. How about that?
Live.
This is not a performance appraisal. This is an early career assessment. So, let me set the stage, everyone. So you have a master's degree in public administration from Merrimack College, and you came on board with the town straight out of college, just a few weeks removed from your graduation. So let's just start there. Provide a general overview on what you've done with the town, kind of on a position by position standpoint, and then I'll dive back in.
Yeah. So like you said, I started in Shrewsbury, I think literally a week and a half after I got to walk the stage for graduation for both my degrees, because COVID 2020 is when I graduated undergrad. Shrewsbury, the posting caught my eye because it was in the town manager's office, and the person I was working for was the former town administrator, current town manager of Sudbury, Andy Sheehan. And he was really helpful during that process of trying to find my first official local government job. And town manager's office is where everything kind of happens. You get to learn a lot because you're exposed to so much. You're kind of the central hub of the organization. So I applied for the principal department assistant role, which at the time served as the primary support staff for the select board. And that was really interesting to me because of there was literally 1 or 2 lines in the job description that emphasized local government communications, and that I would be the person managing the town's social media. Any sort of communications that were going out from the town were, just a couple lines in this job description. But that's really what caught my eye, because I spent so much time in my undergrad and my grad program focused on local government communications, why like branding was important for a town, is what I did my thesis on for school, and just the overall fact of how do local governments present themselves as a prominent figure in their communities, and also build quote unquote brand recognition of being like the trustworthy go-to source for information through the same strategies that like private companies use to be that for their customers in their market. And so once I was promoted, I think it was just about 2 years in, to my current role as the assistant to town manager communications coordinator, that was like the official shift to being the primary focus on communications. I think as I worked through those first 2 years, the theoretical pie chart of select board support communications kind of started to look more like a Venn diagram. And then we made that official shift to align kind of with the strategic plan of kind of promoting those focuses on external outreach, internal communications with staff, to just foster a culture of high performers, but also prioritizing the residents of our community and making sure that they know what's going on as to the best of our ability, with our finite resources and finite time, but doing what we can with what's available to do that. And I think we've done a pretty good job, not tooting my own horn, but I think we've all worked very collaboratively to get to where we are from where we were 4 years ago.
So what stands out in that timeline for anyone that's listening and hoping to get that first interview or first job? This is a really interesting time of the year always for us as we post jobs, because we see more individuals with master's degrees and maybe no experience, or bachelor's degrees and no experience, or lower levels of experience applying for positions, which is exciting because we see a lot
Yeah.
more young people in the job market, which obviously makes a lot of sense. But what stands out over that period of time that you wish you knew then that you know now, or just stands out to you overall?
I think this is something you and I talk about a lot too, is just like the transferableness of skills in local government from other, whether it's private sector roles, of just being very like customer focused first, especially if you're applying for an administrative assistant, executive assistant, department assistant, those type of roles, and even like the role that I have and Justin and Alex and Christine in our office. We're looking at those. How do you prioritize multiple competing tasks? How do you balance your day-to-day work, but also when you need to juggle answering phones and customer service focused interactions like at the counter or through email? How do you work on those higher level projects? How do you kind of have to manage up? And I think those soft skills are what help people succeed the most in local government. Obviously, our knowledge base has to be pretty vast or specialized. I feel like in the town manager's office, you kind of have to have a broader knowledge base and be able to drill into specific topics. But if you're working in the planning department, you're generally going to be more focused on having done planning school, or accounting, having done business studies, whether in college or working at a private accounting firm. And kind of knowing that those skills that you have in the private sector or from college, or internships, those are applicable every day when you're working in the public sector in a town hall. And don't like discount that knowledge when you are applying for these jobs, because it really is, you are going to learn a lot, and there's always going to be a learning curve no matter what. But I feel like if you're up to the challenge and you have those good soft skills to back you up, I think anything's possible.
So a lot has changed in the last 4 years, and even over the last year, we've,
Yeah.
I think, changed communications drastically in comparison to the first full year on the role as communications coordinator. So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. So we created a strategic communications plan that was adopted in 22, and that really was the spring point or springboard that we used to get things up and running. But what did we learn in that first year? Or what did you learn in that first year, and how did that evolve into the second full year's worth of work? What was different, if nothing else?
I feel like year one in this role was a lot about experimentation and trying to figure out, based on the strategic plan, survey results we got back, like what are the best channels to communicate with the Shrewsbury community specifically. Every community is different, whether it's like age demographics or where people want to get their information from. So we were lucky that we did that community survey at the time, and we're able to ask that question, like, how do you want to receive information from the town? And so we did kind of try everything. We tried different like time between communications. We tried different methods of communication, whether it was print, social media, website only. And then we kind of shifted towards email newsletters towards the end of that first year. And we're just trying to see like what was becoming the most effective, what should we be spending our time and energy on to make the best quality of work. And then year two was a lot about the refinement and figuring out like, okay, the weekly newsletter, people really like that over email. It's a quick snapshot of what's going on in the week. Great, we'll keep doing that. It was actually a monthly one, and then a bi-weekly, and then it turned into a weekly. People really like the quarterly print newsletter that goes to every household. That was the number one thing people asked for through that strategic planning process. Great, we'll figure out how to fund that. Luckily, we had ARPA at the time. We'll keep doing that because that's been very effective for people. And, you know, it also offers a cost savings where we're able to send out a couple different surveys at the time, like through the quarterly newsletter, instead of having to do like 3 different mailings that would cost a good chunk of change to advertise in that way. We started focusing more on how we're posting on social media, not just posting on social media. So looking at the times a day people want to interact, how long our posts should be on social media, what posts do we direct just back to the website for, what posts can we just keep the traffic just online, and then the website, how can we continue to refine like that user experience online, like what ways can we restructure, how can we improve our search effectiveness on the website. So it's been a lot of behind the scenes, like deleting old documents that, we don't need our zoning bylaws from 2014 clogging your search function when someone just wants to know what it is right now so they can plan if they can do the addition on their house, or they're not going to have enough space and need to apply for like a special permit. Also, don't want the old special permit application still floating around on the website, because that's not going to help. It's just going to cause frustration for people. So year 2's been a lot of that. Like, we're fine tuning what we have. And now I think going into year 3 of being in this role, it's going to be more like reviewing and improving, because I feel like we have the combination right now. It's just now we have to tweak it to keep adjusting to our community and what works best for them, because it's all about the residents at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think we'll always evolve, and it's something that's really, I mean, maybe I should have picked up on this before, or maybe I intrinsically knew it all the time. I don't know how to say it, we won't volume our way to perfect communication, right?
Right.
There's probably no such thing as perfect communication. We have to put ourselves where people are, and that's what we're trying to do on social media through a variety of ways, but also hit people with other forms of media throughout time, whether that's the mailed newsletter or something that comes in via email or something other than social media.
Podcast.
Yeah, of course. Even this podcast as a method of trying to engage on deeper topics with residents. So over time, volume will never be the path to complete awareness and understanding what's going on at
I
time.
mean, it's definitely a balance between quality and quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have both at the same time. It just depends on what resources you have, and also what goals you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to achieve saturation, or do you want to just keep engaging the people that want to be engaged? Because at the end of the day, it's all about, like we said, all about the residents, meeting them where they are. Some people just don't care, and that's totally okay. Like, they have their kids they want to worry about. They feel like the town is running fine, and they don't necessarily want to spend time watching a select board meeting or looking at the town's Facebook page. They'd rather be online shopping or being on the library page or the recreation page, and that's totally okay. We just have to keep making sure that we're able to get the most important information in front of them when it's needed through the quarterly newsletter, or if our Facebook post is shared by rec because we want to target that specific demographic, then we do that. But like you said, there's never going to be a perfect formula to get every single resident in town to look at what we're doing. But we just need to continue to try our best to get it in front of as many people that care and want to be informed on the minute details or just the bigger picture, and what that impact can be for us.
And something else that we focused a little bit more on, and I know I engaged with a little bit more focus on over the past year, was the trust and I shouldn't say trust and transparency, but more on the trust. Like, what ways can we be building more trust with residents as we communicate, and what types of communication really are better at building trust than others, if there are any. And simply put, we've spent a lot more time on trying to build our in-person communications opportunities with residents at town events and through other ad hoc measures like office hours or general office hours, themed office hours. The select board has engaged with us in that endeavor. And again, this doesn't mean that we have thousands of people coming out to each one of those opportunities, but we're putting ourselves in a position to be able to have more focused conversations with residents about what they want to focus on rather than just communicating to them.
Right.
I've found a lot of satisfaction and learned a lot over the last year in having these more direct conversations with groups and residents. I've been able to receive obviously more two-way communications, but more meaningful feedback and help overcome some of those nuances that you'll never be able to get to if through print or this form of media or something like that. So I know we'll continue to evolve and find more opportunities. One of the things that we've talked about too, Taylor, over the last year or so is how can we go deeper into subjects that people are interested in so they can understand a little bit more about a particular topic, whether it's the financial aspects of the town or go deeper into how we run public works programming or make capital investments or look at how we borrow money for major capital improvement projects, so that if they're interested in having a deeper understanding of a process more from beginning to end, that we have those opportunities for them as well.
Right.
That's an area that we definitely need to continue to work in and explore. I think the podcast is a good opportunity to be able to do that. But we've also interestingly learned from the podcast that shorter episodes tend to drive more engagement as well. So there's always going to be a balance to the audience that we're speaking to, and always focusing on how we're building trust and getting timely information to residents throughout the community. So one of the projects that we tied a lot of communications into over the last year was the facilities optimization project. And in Massachusetts, we worked through two complementary processes associated with a major capital improvement when we need to borrow. The first part of that is through town meeting, where we ask town meeting if we're allowed to borrow a particular sum of money to be able to cover the cost of the project. And the second part of that is if we need to raise money above and beyond what's in our current tax levy because of limitations that are imposed upon us by Proposition 2.5 in Massachusetts, then we have to go to a special election and ask voters to allow us to raise that additional money. And that's not unique to local government in the Northeast or in Massachusetts. Major bond referendums often take some type of special election and voter approval. It's done in a number of different ways. I want to congratulate our colleagues in Plano, Texas. I know they took on a major capital bond initiative, and they had a vote a couple weeks ago, and they had overwhelming approval for about $700 million borrowing authorization for a number of different projects. So there's different ways that local governments do it. I think maybe more common across the country is these multi-year initiatives where a number of projects are bundled together and they go to voters one time, maybe every 3 to 5 or 10 years, and say, can we borrow a large sum of money to build up police headquarters and improve our roadways and make other infrastructure improvements. Where here we go project by project and ask both town meeting and, when necessary, residents, registered voters through a direct special election, whether we can borrow and raise a sufficient amount of money for this project. So when it comes to the facilities project and that two-pronged process, we had overwhelming support at town meeting. Town meeting is a captive audience. It's a known audience, 240 elected representatives throughout the community. We didn't call for a standing vote, but it was safe to say that more than 2/3 of the people at the special town meeting on April 14th voted in favor of borrowing for that project, which includes the Department of Public Works facility at South Street and the town hall here on Maple Avenue. But when it got to the special election on the election on May 6th, the ballot question did not receive support. So more people voted no than yes. So the project, at least that component of it, or as it was originally envisioned, cannot move forward at this time. So here's a project where I think we did a really good job of communicating. The building committee had over 35 meetings. There was 5 separate public engagement opportunities at South Street where people could come and tour and talk one-on-one with staff members. And if we're being honest, very low turnout. Very few people took that opportunity. Despite that communication, the project wasn't supported on the ballot. So now, we're sitting back trying to understand why. I'm very interested to understand why someone voted no, right? I can come up with a few big buckets, right? Like maybe it was just too expensive. Maybe the scope of the project wasn't what people wanted. Maybe there was something in it that shouldn't have been. Maybe there was something that should have been in it that wasn't, right? Like what were people thinking whenever they cast that yes or no vote? And it was, about 500 votes different. So it was, in the grand scheme of things, relatively close, but still a clear outcome. So now we need to communicate again
Right.
with the residents to try to learn more about why they cast their votes in the manner that they did. And that's something that I wish we didn't have to do, but I look forward to do, because I think that's the most important question. Hopefully we were able to demonstrate the need associated with the projects, because a lot of it is significant capital maintenance, especially at the town hall. A lot of the South Street facility is capital maintenance. Sure, it's a demolition of one building, but it's the renovation and restoration of the existing highway garage and the expansion of it. So again, a substantial part of the project is just maintaining the current facilities that we have now and investing in buildings that are in the systems that were built in this building, a renovation in the 1990s, but still the systems are the HVA system is approaching 30 years old. So
It's older than me.
it's older than you, sure. So what's your thoughts on how we engage with residents in this new area after the no vote, I'll call it?
And I think this might be the most important phase of that feedback loop, because it's moving past I feel like communications can sometimes be very transactional. Okay, here's the information, come vote, or come to the meeting, come to the community engagement session. And that can feel, I think, less personal. Versus when you this is the part where you're completing that full feedback loop. We told you what the need was, you evaluated the need, you made your decision, and now we want to understand why. So then we can use that why for the next time we have a capital project. Where do we need to do better? Should we have done more of XYZ at the beginning? Did you feel informed about it and it just simply you just didn't think we needed it? And that's completely fine. But completing that total communications loop lets us know how to do better, how we can do better for the town and the residents, and just lets us kind of continuously improve how we're communicating with our community specifically. Which, like you said, I'm not sad. It was not the outcome that we wanted, but it's the outcome we got, and all we can do is learn from that outcome. And this is the part where we're able to learn directly from the residents what their thought process was when making the decision. We kind of know what our thought process is when we're presenting a option or a recommendation. Now we know. Now we can learn what their thought process was when they did get to the polling station on May 6th, and why they checked yes or why they checked no. And then that informs us for the future.
There's a couple of nuances in the project itself that led to needing to communicate as thoroughly as we possibly could. One of those was a change in the cost estimate, right? The project from the time that we were looking at a very preliminary design in November at the special town meeting until we went back to another special town meeting in April and sought the borrowing authorization, the project increased about $10 million. And we did as much as we could to identify why those
Right.
costs changed. That may be a factor that led to some people to vote no. Maybe they weren't comfortable at the higher level. Maybe they didn't see the value for it. So there's always going to be balancing resident expectations and fiscal responsibility on these projects. The other nuance, but it's more of an umbrella than an intervening factor like the $10 million adjustment, is that we've been more robust in the overall capital planning that we've been doing with the select board over the last year plus. And that means that residents are aware of, I think they're more aware of future capital needs and future operational needs because we've been transparent with them about them than they have been when they voted on any other single project within the community. And I know that's a big statement to make, but I think it could be right. Or at least we've been talking more about what else is coming down the road specifically. And those two projects those two initiatives that could be impacting this facilities optimization project include an operational override that is on the horizon that would hit tax bills in 2027,
Yeah.
and a high school renovation and addition project that could hit tax bills in 2030. Now we sit in 2025, and in some ways those two outside dates are a long way away, but I think they could have been factored, and that's something that I'm interested in learning more about. I think operational stability and consistency is always our number one, but we can't neglect the capital needs.
Right.
It's our job to be able to demonstrate the actual capital investment needs while managing the tax bill and ensuring that we're not overburdening residents. And I'm looking forward to thinking about that part of our communications a little bit deeper, because we were able to put a $42 million project together that was going to impact the average single family tax bill at its peak of $51, which is rather modest. It's not zero. I completely understand that. But it's also done in a way that residents, if they find value in the project, don't have to experience the full $170 plus dollars that the project will actually cost for the tax impact.
Right.
And I also understand that if we don't take the project on, then tax bills would go down by about $120 or so. So, all those nuances in our communication, how do we make sure residents know and understand the implications of what it is that we need to do and why we need to make these investments, while gaining their support and trust and putting a financial plan together that they can, I guess, accept for these projects.
And I think that's another thing that's changed a lot since I moved into this role, is that we've been kind of able to do project specific planning when it comes to communications. It's not really this like ad hoc, this event's coming up, can you post about it? Like, we're really able to sit there and be like, okay, so the May 6th is the day that the election is. We should be communicate. This is the timeline, and work backwards of when we should have events. When is online communication better? Where can we fit in print communication that won't cost extra money to get out to residents? And I think the other part of that was interesting was just the conversation we had about that $10 million difference. And is it better to come out early with the 30 million estimate, and then have to change it later on in the process as you get more information and things change, designer changed, conditions changed, the needs changed? Or do you wait until X months out when you have the 60% and you're really pretty sure it's going to be the 40 million, but then it kind of is like, is that too late? Is it kind of more of a sticker shock at that point? Like, what's the right way to approach it? And I think that what we've always talked about is communicating early and consistently is kind of that best path forward, because you are kind of showing the way a process evolves. You're showing what factors can kind of alter the decision making and the price estimates of things. And residents are kind of seeing a process evolve before them, instead of just being told like, 40 million, your tax bill's going up $51, like yes or no. We really like showed how a project comes together under just the way Shrewsbury plans for its capital investments.
Right. Well, when it comes to that project, we'll obviously be communicating with residents a lot, be taking feedback from the select board at their upcoming meeting about what their interests are with the project. If nothing else, I'd love to learn why, and we can always learn from these projects and understand where residents think we need to be making these investments with their tax dollars and what other opportunities may exist. There are capital maintenance needs that will be required at both of these buildings. I'd love to do those, as always, in the most efficient way that we possibly can. Normally, when you do a bigger project, wrapping those in is a lot more cost effective
Right.
than it would be if you're just going to come in and say replace the HVAC system on this building. When you have all trades here doing a bunch of different things, a bunch of different aspects of the building, that cost of doing one single facet of that project, again in this instance replacing the HVAC system, is likely going to be a lot more cost effective, a lot less costly
Yeah.
in that larger project envelope than it will be if we just go out the bid tomorrow and,
Right.
and see
Or
replace it.
if it were
If it
to
fails.
fail before we were even able to,
Right,
like try to be proactive about it. So
right.
again, just lots of factors.
Yeah, if you put a time factor on that and need to do it, because there's an issue, then it likely would be even more expensive than that. But we live with the results that we got through that, and communications, I think, positively got us, almost 2,000 votes in favor of this project. That was, there were 17% of voters, registered voters, that voted in our annual election. That's up from 10% the year over year. So we'll take those victories. We know we had engaged people at the election, and we'll figure out a path forward if there is one with the leadership in this community for this project, or find other ways to to maintain the buildings as best as we possibly can. So always work on the trust and transparency. So Taylor, I guess just to wrap things up, where do we go? What's on the horizon? What are you thinking about for the upcoming fiscal year and your work in communications, building on the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think, like I said a little bit ago, this year 3 is going to be a lot of that refinement of what we're doing now. And then again, introducing some more experimentation. I think the only way you can learn what's best for your community is by trying new things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. I think we'll stick to our bread and butter that has been working for the last year. But again, it's not I feel like a communications plan is not totally set in stone. You always need to evolve. You always need to refine. Demographics change. What works best changes. Platforms get updated all the time. Some might become obsolete in the way those updates work for what our needs were. Like, we stopped using our Twitter account 2 years ago because we just weren't getting good engagement on it anymore. And that's okay. And we pivoted. Now we have a Facebook and an Instagram.
Sure.
I think we'll just keep making those changes to do what's best for our community. And I think, like we always say, just continue to meet residents where they are, get them the information they need and want, and be there to answer any questions. Completing that loop, being there for meaningful two-way feedback. I think that's what we're kind of all about in Shrewsbury. And I'm proud of what we've all been able to do together through collaboration.
Yeah, we've definitely made a lot of progress over the last 3 to 4 years, and we'll continue to evolve that. And thanks for all your work and effort day in, day out on those initiatives, Taylor. We really appreciate it. Just want to remind folks, if they're interested or have a question or comment for Taylor or I, you can always reach us at tmdownload@shrewsburyma.gov. Taylor, I appreciate your engagement today and having a conversation of big picture communications and next steps on the specific project when it comes to facilities optimization and where we may be heading over the next year or two. Appreciate your work on a day-to-day basis. On behalf of Taylor Galusha, I'm Kevin Mizikar. Thank you for listening.